If you've been scrolling through endless listings, staring at lift heights and load capacities, and still can't decide which power lift stacker actually makes sense for your workshop, this review is here to clear that up. The link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I've spent the last few days digging through spec sheets, watching a handful of installation videos, and even reading the sparse comments that do exist for the Wesco Lexco power lift with optional power drive. What you'll hear in the next few minutes is not a laundry list of numbers, but a practical look at how this machine fits into a real-world workflow, where it saves you time or money, and when it might be more hassle than help. Let's start with the basics that matter to anyone who actually uses a lift stacker on a daily basis. This unit is a fixed straddle model with a 3/464-inch lift height that's just under 2 meters. The capacity sits at a solid 1,500 pounds, which puts it squarely in the range of small to medium fabrication shops, automotive body shops, and even some light industrial environments where you need to raise a heavy pallet or a loaded workbench without resorting to a forklift. The forks themselves are adjustable from a 625 mm overall width, so you can accommodate a decent variety of loads, from standard 48-inch pallets to wider sheet metal trays. Who should consider buying this? If you run a shop where a single operator frequently needs to lift a motor, a gearbox, or a stack of metal parts from floor level to a bench that's about waist height, the Wesco Lexco stacker offers a ready-made solution. The power drive option means you won't be hauling a manual crank around, just press the foot pedal, and the lift does the work for you. That makes a huge difference when you're dealing with repetitive lifts. The motor reduces fatigue, cuts lift time roughly in half compared to a manual straddle, and it's quiet enough that it doesn't dominate the shop floor noise. On the flip side, if you're a hobbyist who only moves a couple of 200-pound items a week, or you already own a small forklift that can reach the same height, this stacker might feel like overkill. The initial price point is not cheap, and the unit does require a dedicated electrical outlet, typically 230V, for the power drive. That alone can add installation cost if your shop isn't pre-wired. Moreover, the footprint of the machine, roughly 3 feet wide and 5 feet long, means you need a clear aisle space. In a cramped garage or a densely packed workshop, you might find the stacker blocks more than it unblocks. Now, let's talk practicality. The first thing I noticed in the installation videos is how the lift space is bolted to the floor. That's a solid design choice because it eliminates the wobble you sometimes get with freestanding units on uneven concrete. It also means once you've set it in place, the machine becomes a permanent fixture. Great if you have a dedicated lift station, not so great if you need to move the stacker around. The adjustment mechanism for the forks is straightforward. You loosen a single knob, slide the forks to the required width, then retighten. In everyday use, that translates to a quick swap from a 48-inch pallet to a 56-inch sheet metal load without needing tools or a second person. A real-world scenario that highlights the stacker's value is a small auto repair shop that frequently needs to raise a transmission assembly for bench work. The assembly can weigh close to 1,200 pounds. Using the Wesco Lexco, the mechanic can wheel the assembly onto the forks, align the center, step on the foot pedal, and have the unit rise smoothly to the exact height of the workbench. The whole process takes under a minute. Compare that to shimmying a manual lift or trying to maneuver a forklift into a tight bay. Both options are slower and increase the chance of pinching a finger or dropping a component. Another strength is maintenance. The power drive motor is sealed, which means you won't be dealing with messy oil or coolant leaks that often plague hydraulic lifts. According to the product sheet, the motor runs on a standard 3-phase supply, and Wesco provides a simple maintenance schedule, basically a monthly visual check and a yearly lubrication of the pivot points. That simplicity keeps downtime low and makes it easier for a shop that doesn't have a dedicated maintenance crew. But there are trade-offs to keep in mind. The lift height of 64 inches, while sufficient for many bench-level tasks, does not reach the heights that a full-size forklift or a larger hydraulic lift can achieve. If your workflow requires raising loads to a mezzanine or into a high storage rack, you'll quickly hit a ceiling. Also, because the stacker is fixed straddle, the forks cannot be angled or split like some specialty lifts, limiting you to loads that sit squarely between the forks. And while the power drive is convenient, it does add an extra layer of failure risk. If the motor burns out, you revert to manual operation, which is not as effortless. Pricing.